Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C., the podcast where we dive into stories behind success, uncovering lessons learned and the insights gained by leaders and innovators in the business world. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Steve Mello. Steve is a social media comedy influencer renowned for his hilarious and relatable content centered around growing up with Portuguese parents in Canada. Steve's unique blend of humor and cultural insights has not only brought laughter to thousands, but he has also carved out a niche that resonates deeply with audiences worldwide. Today, his reach has over 50,000 followers on Instagram and over 80,000 on Facebook. Today, we're going to learn about his journey to becoming an influencer, the ups and downs of living in the digital spotlight, and the impact of his work on his life and the lives of his followers. Let's dive in. Hi, Steve. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me,
I'm excited to get into this conversation with you.
as am I.
So, for our listeners who don't know very much about you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and share a bit about your background and how you got started with Portuguese comedy?
Yeah, my name's Steve Mello. Back in 2015, I made an Instagram account called Portuguese Comedy originally because I just realized nobody had it, and I was like, okay, I just wanted to start putting out some funny Portuguese stuff because I noticed not a lot of people were doing it.
Mhm.
And then I quickly realized that Portuguese comedy, like if you were to type in PortugueseComedy.com, it takes you to the website of a very popular Portuguese group called the Portuguese Kids. So I'm like, oh, okay. I don't want them to think I'm like intruding on their like intellectual property or anything because they that's like what they do for work. That's they're a comedy troupe and they go around. So I'm like, what am I going to do now? I changed it, so I just flipped it and I changed it to Comedy Portuguese. I gave myself a persona called Ben Fate, which in Portuguese means like you deserve it, which is like a saying that Portuguese people like to use all the time
Yeah.
when their kids mess up. Oh, Ben Fate. So I'm like, well, I
Serve
can
it.
make a name out of that and just kind of give myself like a gimmick.
Hmm.
I started in 2015. I just started putting out some funny like memes and and parodies and stuff like that. And then it just started kind of blowing up, and I never kind of intended it to blow up. I was just doing stuff that I found was
Funny.
funny and just putting it out there. But then, someone shares it with someone shares it with someone. And then before you know it, in like the first month, I had already accumulated like 5,000 followers. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is kind of nuts.
Yeah. And how
Then
many followers are you at now?
I just hit 50K on
Nice.
Instagram and I'm at 72K on Facebook.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
started the Facebook much later than the Instagram. I only started the Facebook because I noticed a lot of people were sharing my stuff from Instagram to Facebook, and it
Mm,
was linking them back to the Instagram. And I'm like, okay, look, people are just sharing my stuff on Facebook, so I might as well make a Facebook page. And before I knew it, it started blowing up on Facebook, and eventually Facebook, yeah. So long story short, yeah, I just try and post something every day, and I just try and post something funny. It is niche. It's for like if you're a Portuguese Canadian you were born in America but you grew up Portuguese. It's kind of for that demographic where a lot of us can relate. We all have the same experiences growing up. A lot of it is funny because we all kind of went through the same stuff. So yeah, I try and post something every day and
yeah.
basically just to keep people coming back. And
Yeah, that's great.
pretty much it.
So, so what sparked your interest in creating comedy content specifically around growing up with Portuguese parents in Canada? What was like, what led you to, hey, I'm going to do this?
It's I guess as a kid, like I would always just try cracking jokes and making people laugh. So there's that aspect of it. But if I'm being completely honest, I started it a month after my second son was born.
Okay.
And if it's going to sound funny, but I mean, I think it's the truth. So I'm just being honest with it. I think I was going through like male postpartum depression. if I'm being completely honest. And I was just, because now it's like, I'm exhausted. I'm not sleeping. I think male postpartum is a real thing. It's not something that's really talked about because we just kind of expect the mothers and females to go through it. But I was convinced that's what I was going through, and I was just kind of in a lull period. So
Yeah.
it was just on Instagram. I saw something that the Portuguese kids did. There was another account that I have to give credit to. Must be Portuguese. It was just a
Watch
Portuguese guy
him.
from Toronto. Yeah, he's just a super nice guy. I've met tons of times now, but he was just doing a thing where he was just talking to himself in the car and just talking Portuguese and saying funny Portuguese things. I'm like, oh, okay. And then obviously there was Mike Rita, who's probably the most well-known stand-up Portuguese comedian. So like I'm just on Instagram one day, I'm holding my kid, I'm half asleep. I'm like, huh, other than them, there's not really too much people like putting out Portuguese related comedy and stuff. And then I was watching The Wolf of Wall Street at the time, and then there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio's dancing at the wedding, all funny. And I thought back, I'm like, man, that would be funny with this particular Portuguese tune. I wonder what that would sound like. And I'm watching it play out on the TV. I'm hearing the song in my head. So I just did it on my phone with an app. And then I made the account. As I said, it was originally Portuguese comedy, and I threw it on. And then, then I thought of something else, and then I thought of something else, and then people were sharing it, and just kind of like, again, it was just one of those things I started because I saw that not a lot of people were doing it, and because I was just kind of going through a weird time. So I never
Brought
kind of,
you joy in a way.
sorry.
Brought you joy in a way.
Yeah, it kind of did. Like I'm making myself laugh, so hopefully other people find this funny, right?
Yeah.
So
So it
yeah,
was kind of like a fluke by accident almost.
it was absolutely an accident. Only when I started like seeing how fast it was growing did I say, okay, well, maybe I should put some actual effort into it because in actuality, I was putting zero effort. It was like, oh, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And, so my background is in graphic design. I'm a graphic designer.
Mm.
And I've done some marketing and brand marketing in the end. So I'm like, okay, well, why don't I actually, if the followers are just kind of coming organically here, why don't I actually start promoting this thing as if it were its own thing, like
Yeah.
brand it? So I started putting my logo on everything I did, not just for as a watermark so people wouldn't steal my stuff, but I figure, if you can make your logo become synonymous with your content and people know you as that. Like I've had people stop me in the streets and they're not saying, "Hey Steve" or "Hey Ben Fade." They're like, "Oh, CP, CP." My logo is just the C and the P for comedy
Yeah.
Portuguese. It's very simple, but they see the logo every day because I try posting something every day. So and I've been doing this 9 years now. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I know. It's 9 years, yeah, on May
A
the
long time. Yeah.
yeah, when you think about it, it's like wow. Uh but it kind of like okay, like put my logo out there consistently because I mean you see the McDonald's logo, you see the Nike logo, you just know what they are, right? So I kind of had that mentality, like, okay, yeah, logo every time. And
Nice.
I just started taking it a little bit more seriously, started putting a little more effort in the video editing and
Mm.
the actual graphic design for memes. I wasn't just grabbing a picture and slapping some text on it. Like I would Photoshop faces and
Yeah.
I started putting more effort into it. And obviously that yielded more followers. And yeah, so it just,
Great.
yeah.
So, was there a particular moment or a piece of content that you feel was pivotal in your journey to becoming a well-known influencer?
Yeah.
Was it?
I took a clip from The Lion King. So it was the clip when they're
I
on.
knew you were going to say that one, by the
Yeah,
way.
okay, that's the one a lot of people come back to and talk about. And I've had people reenact it to me to my face, like in person. It's like, oh wow, this is nuts. But yeah, it was basically the scene where Mufasa and Simba are on top of a mountaintop, and Mufasa's like, everything the light touches is our kingdom. So I
Mm.
took that scene and I redubbed it with my own voice in Portuguese. I did Mufasa's voice, I did Simba's voice, and then I just said some stuff in Portuguese. And then basically yeah, it kind of just blew up because I think it was more so the context of what I said, because in the movie he asks about the shadowy area, which is the elephant graveyard, and Mufasa's like, no, no, you must never go there. But in Portuguese, I said same thing. Like, what's that area over there? Is that the Set Cidade, which is a very popular tourist attraction in San Miguel, the island? And Mufasa was like, no, 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 that's Hobt Peixe, which is like it's a place in Saint Michael's, San Miguel Island that has a very like kind of bad reputation for just being like nothing against Hobt Peixe, but it was a running joke at the time.
Yeah.
So I went with it, and yeah, it just kind of that one was the one that I remember more so like blowing up than others, and then. Yeah, so I
I
would,
remember seeing it and I thought it was hilarious.
yeah. And again, that was just me watching The Lion King with my kids one day.
Yeah.
And like that scene, I'm like, huh, like it just,
Yeah.
like note to self, do that
To
when you
do
have
that.
a moment. And yeah, so
So, as an influencer, you're exposed to thousands of people and you're sharing things that make you laugh and you think are going to make other people laugh, but you're also being authentic and you're putting yourself out there. What has been some of the most significant challenges you faced as an influencer and how have you managed them?
I would say with what I put out there, like I'm when it comes to my kind of humor, sometimes it's dark. Uh, Not gonna lie. So sometimes I can understand if it offends like people, especially the older demographic, uh,
Mm,
especially on Facebook. And that's the other thing. Instagram's a slightly younger demographic.
mm,
Facebook's a much older demographic. So I can put the same thing out on both platforms, have an awesome response on one, but have a couple of people offended on the other because it's like, whoa, that one was out there, right? That obviously people leaving stupid comments and criticizing and just saying hurtful stuff, which as an influencer, you have to learn real quick. You can't let that stuff bother you. Either, delete the comment, move on, block the person, move on. You just try not to engage because it's just going to bring about more negativity. I'm trying to put something positive out, something that makes people laugh. I get that person's probably going through some stuff and they're looking for an outlet to so there's many contributions, but as an influencer, yeah, you gotta take the criticism. You gotta kind of just brush it off, move forward, and just try and focus on the positive and the people you are making laugh.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I guess that I mean with anything, I think the more famous you become, the more you open yourself up to negativity and people that don't like you. Just comes with the territory, unfortunately.
Yeah, I find that in social, especially in social media, because people are trying to be authentic about the content they're putting out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of haters out there, like you said, and it's not just haters. Like a lot of people are just opinionated, and they think that you
Yeah.
want to hear their opinion when you really don't. And that's just,
Yeah.
I think that's just part of the territory of being
Yep.
an influencer. But when you first started out, I mean, obviously now you have some, you've grown you've grown a pair, you've gotten used to it.
Yeah.
In the beginning, like how did that affect you? Did it affect you mentally? Did it make you depressed? Like what were some of the things that you went through? But more importantly, for our audience who are going through that journey of wanting to become influencers or are or need to, how did you deal with it to get to a place now where you're like, hey, I can't please everybody? What were some of the things that you had to do?
I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning, I didn't handle it too well because I mean it was all
Okay, what
it
did
was
you
all
do?
it was all new. I would just reply back angrily and like, and then it's like but I quickly realized and credit to the Portuguese kids because again, it's crazy. Because I obviously started off as a fan of
Mm,
theirs. I've been watching them for over 20 years and 9 years later, me doing my thing, like I consider them friends now, and they actually reached out and said, "Hey, like they were the ones that gave me that advice. Like you can't do
oh,
do not engage because you're just going to make yourself look bad, and that's not what you're about. We know that's not what you're about. You're just trying to make people laugh. We get you can't engage with you can't engage. You got to just
haters.
block it out. Yeah, you can't engage with the haters. You can't because then it's gonna if you do, then you're gonna, in anger, you may post something without thinking that's just gonna make you look bad, and then it's just a ripple effect. It's just, this
And I'm
comment
sure
gonna lead
it
to
had an
that.
effect on you, right? Like mentally, that must have gotten like when
Yeah,
people,
because in all honesty, I'm like, what the heck's this guy's problem, or what the heck's this? I'm just like, I'm just trying to make people laugh here. Like, calm down. Like, this is not my day job. It's not. Like, I'm just trying to be funny here. But I get it. Like, people, oh, it offended them. Okay, well, I can't help that. Again, I'm just trying to make people laugh. I'm not at 90% of the time I'm successful in that. And like I'm at the end of the day, I'm not there for the haters. I'm there for the people that come
Yeah,
back and want to see something funny and are used to my sort of humor and my content. So because I'm not catering to the haters, then it's just a little easier to block them out. But in the beginning, yeah, it was like, kind of because especially because I wasn't I was just doing I just did something for fun one day and it led to this and it led to that. And like all this stuff's kind of just happening. Uh,
yeah.
so it was a lot to kind of like process, like, whoa, like, yeah. So
I've seen I've seen like influencers that I really like on Instagram and TikTok and things like that. And I've literally witnessed them have breakdowns and
yeah,
saying, I'm going to get off social media just because,
yeah.
like, sometimes it can become really overwhelming, right?
I'm seeing it a lot on YouTube now, like content creators that I've been watching for years, like over 10 years, just saying like, hey, it's been fun and I'm out. And these are people with like millions of followers,
Wow.
millions of views. They just either they're burnt out or the YouTube. I'm not really big on YouTube. My primary is Facebook and Instagram. I have a YouTube, I have a TikTok, I have, there's
Yeah.
some yeah, I have all that stuff, but primarily I focus on that. But I'm just seeing a lot more of it on YouTube where either it's burnout or I don't know if it has something to do with the way the ad structure works and if they're getting paid less, but I'm seeing it a lot more now, just some kind of like a mass exodus of content creators, especially ones that I've been following.
Yeah. So let's talk about something completely different, and that's the opportunities that comes from being an influencer. So you're in Canada, and we don't get a whole lot in Canada. Like
No,
TikTok doesn't have the content creator fund and
no.
things like that. But you are an influencer because you have over 50,000 followers on Instagram, 72 on Facebook, and that's a huge milestone. People would die to have that. So, what opportunities has this level of reach opened up for you, both personally and professionally?
Well, personally, like I said, I was like a huge fan of the Portuguese kids. Like I think they inspired a lot of people to get into Portuguese comedy and do this kind of thing. So, like my dad and I would go to a lot of their shows over the years, and then when I did start doing it, I went to one of their shows, I believe it was in Hamilton, introduced myself. They're like, "Oh, you're comedy Portuguese, right?" And then obviously I went to a couple more shows, and it got to like, they invited me to hang out with them after the show or and stuff like that. So like as I said, like I've actually become friends with them now, and I would have never thought that before. Like back in the day, I'm just a fan. I'm just someone that admires what they do, and now I'm fortunate enough to call them friends. Same thing with Mike Rita. I was a huge fan of Mike Rita and what he was doing with Portuguese comedy in the world of stand-up comedy. So just the opportunity, like the people I've met, that I would have normally never met. Again, going back to Must Be Portuguese, like his videos did inspire me as well, and I'm proud to call him a friend. So a lot of friendships that have been made from something that again I initially didn't put a lot of thought into it. It's kind of cool and just connections with. I've done interviews on Omni TV and just recently on FPTV, and it's like I just find it fascinating that people want to know stuff about me because again, for me, this like I said, it's not my day job. It's just something I do for fun. But the fact that I have that much of a reach, like it kind of hit me. Like, yeah, that's 100 and over 120,000 like worldwide. Like I get messages from people from South Africa and Australia and United Kingdom. Like there's Portuguese people everywhere. So to have that reach, it's not something like I would have never pictured that like
Yeah.
all those years ago. Just I'm just being trying to be funny, haha, right? And it's and it's overwhelming sometimes because I do know that I don't look at myself as an influencer. I look at myself, I'm just a regular guy. That's like at the end of the day, like I try and stay humble about it because that's how I actually feel. Like
Hmm.
never got into it for the followers. It just happened and with it, yeah, there were opportunities and stuff like that. So I mean, I try and just stay humble. I try and post something every day.
Yeah.
And I just at the end of the day, I try and be if you're having a horrible day, I hope that you when you come to my page, it's like, oh, that was so and I've had messages like that. I've had people privately message me like I like horrible day, but your video cheered me up. And that's what it's all about for me. It's not about like I have a merch store and I have t-shirts, obviously, but I don't look at it as a I gotta monetize myself. Again, if opportunities present themselves to me, obviously I'm not gonna turn them
Yeah.
away if somebody wants to do a sponsorship deal or somebody wants to book me on a show. And I have done my own comedy shows through this as well. I'm in the
Okay.
process of doing my third Pork Chops and Comedy show, probably in August, probably in Mississauga. So you just got the scoop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like even just stuff like that, like I developed a following and now I'm able to do comedy shows from that too. Like, and whereas a lot of people in the comedy world, like it's kind of the opposite. They have to like make a name for themselves. And then
Mm.
once they make the name for themselves, they get the following. I kind of went ass backwards with it
Yeah.
unintentionally, right? I gained the following and now I wouldn't say I'm trying to make a name for myself, but the opportunities that it has been providing me, obviously I'm gonna not say take advantage of them, but be open to.
Of course.
So yeah.
There's people that dream to just even be halfway to where you are. So you've already accomplished a lot. Uh,
Yeah. No, thank you.
yeah, but so what, and social media is massive now, not just for people that are trying to be influencers, but companies that are trying to grow and have more of a social influence and become, thought leaders and things like that. What key advice would you give to someone starting out on social media, especially in creating content that resonates with a wide audience?
I would say I was kind of lucky when I did start in 2015 because the organic growth on Instagram at the time is very similar to what it is like now on TikTok.
Mm,
Organic growth is just through the roof on TikTok. So I would say if they are going to start, it depends on what they want to do. I would honestly, as much as I'd hate to admit it, I would say in today's day and age, start on TikTok because you're probably going to have the most chance for success in terms of getting a bigger following on there, just based on how rapidly the organic growth is on it. I would say start on TikTok. And I'm a firm believer, like no matter what you are putting out there, like if you're a marketing company or if you're a dentist office, whatever, doctor's office, if you got some humor to your posts, even if you're doing like an infomercial, like if it's funny, people are gonna be like, whoa, what? Like they weren't expecting it. So they'll share it with somebody. Well, check out this ad or check out this commercial for this company. And like this is funny. Like I think it's important to not do what everyone else is doing, like not be afraid to step outside your comfort zone and just be fearless and try um just just yeah,
yeah,
just kind of
humor into your content.
yeah, like from obviously I'm going to say humor because it worked for me,
I
but
like that though.
I think it works in all aspects of it. Like
Yeah,
because I think some of the stuff that does go viral, it most of the time it goes viral because it's funny
yeah.
or it's shocking or like but yeah, so like if you're just putting out normal plain content, then it's gonna get normal plain treatment, I guess you could say. So, yeah, don't be afraid to add some humor to it or add some shock value to it
Yeah.
to stand out. Do something different than the rest of everyone else is doing.
Mm.
I would say that's good advice. So,
So you've mentioned obviously this is not your full-time job.
you know,
So you have to put out content, create content. How are you balancing your personal life with the demands of being a social media influencer?
well, I'm a Libra, so my I'm always I'm never I can never find a good balance between my day job, between my working around my wife's schedule, my kids' schedule. There's never a balance. I just try and stay organized and make it work. I will miss some days where I don't post anything, but if I don't post anything, it's probably because I was super busy that day and I literally did not have a moment to breathe and sit down and like, what am I going to put out today? And
Yeah.
I never want to put something forced or like I have to post something today. I want it to come organically, like for through thought and sometimes I'll have like five things ready to go because I had a creative kind of moment.
Moment.
And it's like, okay, no, dude, I have these ideas, I have the time, like put it all together now and schedule it accordingly.
Yeah.
Some days I'll put two out because I have the time. it all depends, but like a rule of thumb is like I try and at least put something out every day, just for the repetitiveness and for people to know that. And like a lot of us, we work on a routine. We work on a certain, like, yeah. So if you wake up, it's like, okay, like Comedy Portuguese, let's see if he has something new today. Or okay, so um yeah. So I guess that's pretty much it.
So just before we wrap up, I have like a personal question because
Okay.
actually for me more than anything. So like, I run a tech company and my team is pushing me into creating content and putting content out there. And obviously I have this podcast and people always think, oh, you're so outgoing, but I'm actually an introvert. And I really dislike putting myself out there,
Yeah.
especially alone, right? But my team is always pushing me like, we got to create some content and you need to schedule a day to do content, blah blah blah. And I'm always like, yeah, 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 I'm gonna do it. But I'm so scared to like just put myself out there. What advice do you have for people like me that are in business and this social media part of it is so important and they're just
So,
scared or to start, doing it? Like what's your advice for someone like me?
so I'll let you in on a little secret too.
Tell me
I
the
might
secret.
I myself am an introvert. You would probably never think that or know it because like I've done shows on stage. I've
Yeah.
done musical parody performances on stage. But again, when I'm doing that, I'm not Steve Mello. I'm a guy named Ben Fate. I gave myself
Have an alter
I
ego.
gave myself an alter ego.
I love that.
So, when you are being pushed to do something that makes you step out of that comfort zone, you're not Sonya Kudo. You're superstar like Sonya, right? Whatever moniker or gimmick or you got to tell yourself. Like I think it's as funny as it sounds. I think it helps because even Freddie Mercury, huge stage fright, but when he went on stage, he wasn't Freddie Mercury. Like he wasn't. Sorry, when he was on stage, he was Freddie Mercury. He wasn't. I forget what his real name is
Yeah,
now, but
really.
like he was that person. Wrestlers, if you follow wrestling, they a lot of them aren't like that, and they're putting on a show, they're putting on a performance.
So they are their character.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're, I like you're an introvert, I'm an introvert, like yeah, but like online on Comedy Portuguese, I'm known as Ben Fate. I'm a silly guy who likes to rap to Portuguese, who likes to do Portuguese raps and change the words on Portuguese songs and
Uh,
just I just it's definitely like this is someone I've created to kind of amp me up that you know yeah, so like I've just kind of made this character for myself. And when I am performing or in performance mode, I am not Steve Mello. I am Ben Fate. And then I can kind of just, switch the gear and I'm
yeah.
not that person. And whatever happens, happens, right?
I love that. Actually, I really like that because I think I do that to a certain degree. Like I'm in a very male dominated space. So whenever I have to go into like a boardroom and I know I'm going to be the only woman there, I do have like a certain outfit that I have to wear that makes me feel confident. Or I know I can't wear flats that day because when I put on a pair of heels, it just gives me a different feeling. So based on what you said, I feel like I could probably do this and just like, and like build that alter ego.
Absolutely, you can. I mean, you started this awesome podcast, which that's a step in the right direction, obviously, right? You're doing something that's out of your comfort zone. I think the more fearless you are in putting yourself out of your comfort zone, the more opportunities it will open, and the more comfortable you will become. I mean, you're still always going to be an introvert. I'm going to be an introvert for life. I'm like, that's just part of our mentality and how we think and how we are. But when it's showtime. So
So I'm Portuguese, obviously, and that's
yes,
why I like your comedy.
yeah,
But for those people that are not Portuguese, and there's a difference between you and I was born in Portugal and you were born here. And,
yes.
and so does your comedy really focus on the children that were born in North America but have Portuguese parents that were born in Portugal, or what's the difference?
It focuses more on the Portuguese person that grew up speaking English,
Okay.
I guess you could say, because there are multiple Portuguese comedy pages that are from right out of Portugal or the Azores, and it's all Portuguese Portuguese speaking, Portuguese dialogue, Portuguese text. But growing up in Canada with Portuguese parents, my parents spoke Portuguese with me, so I speak Portuguese. But a lot of us grew up that way. And you yourself, you speak English and you speak Portuguese. And at first, I would say, yeah, it was for the North American Portuguese growing up here that had a lot of similar experiences with our parents growing up and could relate to. But I mean, like I said, I've reached a worldwide audience. So there's Portuguese all over the world that have related to some of the stuff I've put out. So I think now I don't really I don't really look at it like at first I did like, okay, I'm a Luso Canadian and this is for Luso Canadians, and but now if it's something I feel that I can relate to Portuguese, then I'll just put it out there, and either
Yeah.
people relate to it or people don't relate to it. It all depends on your experience growing up. But again, for the most part, I think most of us growing up as Portuguese kids, for whatever reason or other, we had angry Portuguese parents. Uh, for whatever reason, like I think that's the one that comes around, like, oh, remember when your parents would yell at you for this or that, or they would throw this at you or that, like, yeah, different times, right? But we all got, for the most part, like, we all had kitchen utensils breaking at some point for no reason. So like, but we can all kind of relate to,
The wooden spoon, it's a
yeah,
thing.
a wooden spoon, yeah, exactly. It's not just for cooking.
No, it's not just and I find that now there's a lot of influencers or people out there just sort of making fun of their own culture on social media, which
Yeah,
really is funny. What is it that you think about the Portuguese culture that makes it so interesting?
a lot of things. That's just like there's so
Besides the
much,
fact that we might be a little crazy.
yeah, but that's just it. Like you think growing up, like, oh man, like this is not to say I had a bad childhood, but by all means, like I didn't. But like
You thought for a second.
you think growing up, like this experience is unique only to you, but then you find out like, oh yeah, my dad used to watch soccer in his underwear all the time too, man. My dad used to make wine in the basement, stomping on grapes all the time too. Like it's like, yo, it wasn't just me. No, you too. Okay, right? Like it's just we all of a sudden we're older and you're discovering like, yeah, no, it's not just you, like other people went through the same stuff that we went through and experiencing the same stuff. So I think that's what makes it funny. Just, and I don't know what it is about Portuguese, but I think I'm not even gonna say it's Portuguese, like it's just a European thing. Like there's angry Italians, there's angry Greeks, like, I think it's just a European thing in general, but because we're Portuguese, obviously we focus more on the Portuguese aspect of it. But yeah, I don't know why. I think it's the older I'm getting, I'm seeing that it's not just a Portuguese thing. Like it is definitely, if you grew up with European parents, then
Mhm.
yeah, like probably, yeah, the plastic cover couches, that's another funny stereotype. A lot of them do it. A lot of them have a separate kitchen in the basement. Why do you need two kitchens? I don't know.
Oh, right.
Stuff like that. Like, you think, oh, am I the only one with an extra kitchen? No. You know, am I the only one whose parents have a china cabinet full of dishes that haven't been touched in 25 years? Nope. It's all these things like, why do they do this? It's fascinating.
It is fascinating because
And can
Portugal, they
yeah.
don't do this.
No, like why who started that here? Who came over and said, you guys, you know what? I'm writing a declaration. Every household must have a kitchen in the basement, a china cabinet that only gets used when the Pope comes. Like
Oh,
that's what it felt like. Like only like the high class people are allowed to touch this stuff, right? So
yeah. I remember when my mom used to buy us clothes, new clothes, it'd be like, okay, this new clothes is for church.
yeah.
Oh, and then when I would get new clothes, then that old church clothes could now be for school, and now the new clothes became for church. It was just a thing.
Okay. Speaking of clothes, and I don't know if it was just my mom that did this. Did your mom put mothballs in the drawers? No. Okay.
Oh,
Because apparently
grandma did, but not mom.
when you store clothes
Uh-huh.
for a long period of time, they advise you. Apparently, I never knew this.
Moth,
They say
moth.
to put mothballs in there, keep
Yeah.
like sex and stuff out from. I get that. I get that for storage purposes, but my mom would put mothballs just in the drawers with my regular clothes. So I went to school smelling like mothballs all the
Stop
time.
it.
That was my scent. I didn't have Swiss Army or
Your
Lacoste.
cologne?
I was mothball mellow. Yeah. I went to school smelling like mothballs all the time, and people
Oh
they
my
couldn't put their finger like it. They just knew that
God.
that Steve's got a certain smell, a certain scent. I can't put my finger on it. It was mothballs because my mom put them everywhere in the house. Don't know why.
The real question is, do you do it now?
No, absolutely not. I'm not putting my kids through that. I went through it. I don't want my kids going to school smelling like mothballs.
So funny. I
No,
do.
in the morning, I'll be like, hey, here's some cologne. I don't. Never too old for cologne. You go to school smelling good.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. The mothballs. I know my mom didn't do it, but my grandma did.
Yeah. So
Maybe she got maybe your mom got it from her grandma, from her
maybe,
mother. It got
maybe.
passed down.
Yeah.
I do remember like you mentioned like where you said you grew up with things that only you thought only you were going through and no
Yeah.
one else would.
Yeah.
I used to think that with the wooden spoon. Like,
Yeah.
what is it with Portuguese and that freaking wooden spoon? Like my mom, we would hide them. I remember one year we decided to move and my mom took the cushions out and she's like digging through the couch to like clean it out. We
Yeah.
found like five wooden spoons. We had hidden them from her. But she would always buy new ones because at the Portuguese store you could go
Oh,
in bulk.
the worst was when they figured out that there were the plastic wooden spoons because those won't break.
Oh, my mom always traditional. She did the wood.
Oh,
But
when my
then
mom,
sometimes she would get the really big oversized ones and those were strong.
yeah, oh yeah,
And for the people that are listening and you don't have any idea what we're talking about, our parents used to beat us with a wooden spoon.
yes. We were disciplined as children, not through words, but through
Yeah,
action.
the wooden spoon,
Uh,
it wasn't that bad, you know, it
yeah.
made us strong, I guess.
I
But that
feel
was
like the older I got, my mom just went through like an arsenal of weapons. Like she would upgrade to kind of like a game of Fortnite or something. Like once the wooden spoon had no use, like I'm gonna upgrade to a
no.
wooden flipper or a belt. And it just got like
Ah,
progressively more hardcore as I got older. But then you
I
hit
never
that
got
certain
that.
age where you realize like, uh, I'm bigger than you. It's over. Game over.
But what it is, I
Yeah.
think maybe this is for all cultures, but like Portuguese kids, even as adults, we are still scared of our parents.
Yeah.
Like, You're gonna beat me with the belt? Sure,
Yeah.
go ahead. You know what I
Yeah. Whack away. It's fine. Like
mean?
if it
No
makes you feel
problem.
happy. But it's funny, and Mike Rita's mentioned this in his comedy. Our parents were so hardcore with us, but
Mhm.
with the grandkids, it's like
Total opposite.
it's like, where were you? Where was this parent when I was a kid? Yeah.
My sisters talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're like, we watch my mom with her grandchildren and we look at each other. We're like, can you imagine if
Yeah.
we had done anything similar to that?
Oh yeah.
The beat.
Yeah, well, like when I was a kid too, I had a cat, and the cat wasn't allowed on the furniture. Was like they would yell at that cat more than they yelled at me. But now my parents have their own cat, and like I was there the other day eating, and their cat jumps up on the table. My dad's like, "Oh, my little," I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here? When did you become so nice? What changed, man?"
I know it's so hard to understand, eh?
Yeah, yeah, like, I think they get to a certain age, and it's just like whatever.
Yeah,
You
but it
just
does make for good comedy.
It does, but like, it's like growing up, our parents were angry. Now that, if we're fortunate enough to still have our parents around at this point in our lives, they're just like, they've just kind of like checked out and they're just kind of like, whatever. Oh, yeah, my grandkids, I love you. You're so good. And like, no, what happened to all that anger? Did you like just keep it in for us? Like, what were you so angry? I think they were angry because they had to immigrate over to Canada.
Hey,
And
they reserved that for us. That was special.
yeah, like they're like, oh man, we got to immigrate over to Canada. So it's like, man, it was just years of like resentment, like, gosh, Canada and kids. And
End of dreams. Meanwhile,
yeah,
we gotta work construction and there's
I know.
so
Maybe that's what it was. They were all angry that they had to immigrate over here, and that was their only outlet. Just
yeah.
yeah, I'm convinced now. That's what.
Well, Steve, this was such a lovely conversation. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for walking us through your journey as an influencer, even though it was by a total fluke. But
yeah,
anyone that's, inspiring to do something similar, I hope that there's some takeaways here that they can get from you, which is like being authentic I don't think it happened by accident. I think it happened by you just being yourself and being authentic,
and
right?
and that's what I would say. Like, if a lot of people today, they just want to be Instagram famous or TikTok famous or YouTube famous.
Yeah,
And I think if you go in with that mentality, you're gonna have a hard time because you're going into it for the wrong reasons.
yeah.
You're going into it for fame. So if you're going into it for a fame standpoint, how much are you really committed and you yourself enjoy what you're going to be putting out there? If you go into it authentically because you enjoy putting out the content that you're putting out,
Hmm.
you truly believe in your head. Like I was putting stuff I truly thought was funny to me, and I could only hope that other people were finding it funny. But like I think that's if you go into it without thinking about how many followers am I going to get? Will I be able to make a career out of this? If you go into it just because you truly want to, because this is what you want to do and it makes you happy, then I think yeah, if people can see that the stuff you're putting out is making you happy and you're putting yourself out there in those videos or whatever it is you're doing, whatever genre, people will see that and followers will come. It may not happen when you expect it, but it may not happen at all.
Hmm.
But you got to go in just doing it for you. And if you do it for you, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But if you go into it with the only the mind frame is I gotta be famous and I gotta get followers, I think you're just setting yourself up. There's an increased chance for disappointment. Not saying it still won't, it can't happen. I'm sure there are people that have gone into it with that mindset and it did work out because they had some type of strategy in place to make it work, or
Yeah.
they were more in depth with strategies to make it work. But I think for the regular person, just going into it for the follower aspect, yeah, no. Go into it because this is what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So
Sure. So before we wrap up,
yeah.
tell us, how can our audience find you? What do you have coming up? I mean, you told us a little sneak peek about, can you tell us
Yeah.
a bit more about the show in Mississauga? Can you
Yeah.
tell us when it's happening? How can people buy tickets? All of the wonderful stuff about how people can find you.
So currently I'm trying to lock down a date.
Okay.
Once the date's locked down and once we have some sponsors in place, then I can obviously announce it, start selling the tickets. Tickets would be available by phone at the club or through Eventbrite. That's normally how we do it. And
How can
I have
people
a
stay up to date with dates and like, do you have a website
if
or something?
yeah, comedyportuguese.com. I'm Comedy Portuguese on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, across the board. It's just Comedy Portuguese. But if you go to comedyportuguese.com, you'll find all my social media links there, my merch store, all my upcoming events. I even have like a social media feed there where stuff from my social media filters through on my website, just kind of
Okay.
like a centralized hub.
Yeah.
And yeah, if anyone ever wants to reach out, I'm very easy to get a hold of too. That's pretty much it.
I will be at your Mississauga show.
Oh, awesome. Right on.
I'll
Cool.
miss
Awesome.
it. All right, Steve. Well, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll have you back and see where you're at and what you're up to. But thank you so much for joining me today. I really had fun in this conversation.
As did I. Thank you for having me and keep up the great work.
Thank you. And that's a wrap. Steve, thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights with us today. It's been really funny and incredibly enlightening to hear how you've navigated the complex world of social media, turning everyday experiences into content that not only entertains, but also connects deeply with people. Your story is a testament to the power of embracing one's heritage and humor in creating a space that resonates with so many. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and join our community on social media. I would love to hear from you. Leave a review and tell me what topics you'd like me to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace change and innovation with tenacity. Keep striving, keep innovating, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to bringing you more inspiring conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, remember to chase your dreams with tenacity.